For the popsicle man and the scissors grinder, I come from Ashburn's Ice Cream, 4 dips for a dime, on a sweltering summer night, just a 10-minute walk from our house. I come from Henrietta Glasscock, the smell of chocolate chip cookies when we came home from school, the savoring of her biscuits and a brisket for supper. Her love for people drew many to our home, her warmth reckoned all. I come from my grandfather and grandmother who lived with us. Papa called Mother Babe. He was full of stories and songs. In hay fever time you come, sweet adenoids, under the shade of an old apple tree where the bees stung the hide off of me. Oops. Should have put
Close quotes.
close quotes. My grandmother made a lot of my clothes. She tried to teach me to sew, but she always ripped out what I stitched in. I come from Daniel Boone, a petroleum geologist who loved to grow chrysanthemums and giant dahlias, and a whistler who could be heard 2 blocks from home. A man of impeccable integrity, he loved to sing and play duets with me on the Chickering baby grand left to me by his mother, a concert pianist. To be continued. And the title, the title Where I'm From comes from a poem by George Ella Lyon. So
this was a work for the class that you're taking?
No, it's a work for me.
I often comment on these groups about the synchronicity of how we come to this group. I was going to bring a poem, essentially where I'm from, and I didn't. And the reason I didn't is because it was very personal, and I will bring it next time, I promise. But it was. I identify with this in a very different way, and that is my childhood was extremely challenging for me. And recently I found out that the house where I grew up was torn down. And so that prompted, plus the poem about the shirt.
Yeah.
So I wrote about the house as to where I'm from, and what has happened to my identity when you think of something, a past that has changed,
Yeah.
So I'm really touched by this, and my thing about poetry is that it's putting who I am on paper, and it does take work. It does take work to read a poem. So I like it. Thank you.
There's some it's often wrenching, like your cabin one.
Yes, exactly.
It really is heartfelt, and sometimes it hurts to go back to those painful thoughts.
I think that phrase must be universal, except we said great green gobs of greasy, grimy gopher guts in the East.
Maybe he didn't know that one. We were only about 7 and 8 when we were doing this. So.
Okay, the first is Book of File. Not all her lovers had looks, because you see they were books. Their rendezvous was the shelf where she'd clasp him to herself, then peek under the cover of her new paper lover. By the time she checked him out, there was no longer any doubt. Despite what the critics said, she was taking him to bed.
That's great.
That's great.
What a great poem.
Just wonderful.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
And you weren't going to share that?
That's powerful.
How about the other one? It's brief and entertaining.
Boo-boo. 3 members of the delegation stood fuming in their indignation and cast a bald-faced allegation that the doctor's failed operation had been due to the medication which led to deadly suppuration. Not so, cried he in consternation, don't cast doubt on my reputation, which serves hereabout as inspiration and brings me grateful compensation.
That's a lot of fun to play.
That's great.
I guess there's some extras. Yeah. So Joy is not here, but she sends regrets and a few words. It's called If. If you have a song to sing, sing it to me now. I fear the music will soon stop. Unsane Muslims, masked, behead the innocent and destroy ancient artifacts. Greed drips from every boardroom crack. Our cities are full of garbage and throwaway people. Only morons and idiots walk through the halls of Congress. We can no longer manage the earth as if it were a gift from gods. Listen, the bombs, they are drowning out the music. Another happy poem.
Very
That is not
popular.
a happy poem.
Yeah.
Wow, I hope she's not depressed, is she? But it's so true.
She's coping with the realities of
It rings.
the world and life, you know?
I like unsane. At first I
Unsane, yeah.
Yeah, I first said, well, maybe that's a typo, but it fits. As opposed to, if you are insane, it means you're in sanity. But if you're unsane, you're outside of sanity. So I like that.
That's
You're definitely not saying.
Turn out fine. So we have a new friend. Finding a new friend is like getting a fresh coat of paint. It looks good. A few holes were filled, old chips smoothed. It may now fit at a new location, side by side with a chair discarded as no longer useful. It might be a new game. Are you good at it? Maybe consistently frustrating. When it works out, is it skill or just a win? But good or bad, something experienced lingers. Finding a new friend is like getting a fresh coat of paint. Sometimes it proves the wrong color, and you have spots and smears on the front of your shirt.
Wow.
Okay? On the other side,
On the other
On
hand,
the other hand, that's exactly what I thought. On the other hand.
we have another short poem called Cheer Up, Cheer Up, Cheer Up. The tulips are tall and bright this morning. A sour spray has kept the deer at bay.
Oh, tell me what it is.
At night, okay. At night, the petals close together, a prudent defense they portray. We too greet another morning. Docks and drugs keep us from crumbling away. The season of spring, a time of unfolding, and it's the pricking of life anew in May.
Oh, I
Very
like
nice.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Life anew, that's marvelous.
And then I offer a Philip Larkin short poem, which was called to my attention, which is on the same theme.
I love this one.
The trees are coming into leaf like something almost being said. The recent buds relax and spread. Their greenness is a kind of grief. Is it that they are born again and we grow old? No, they die too. Their yearly trick of looking new is written down in rings of grain. Yet still the unresting castles thresh in full-grown thickness every May. Last year is dead, they seem to say. Begin afresh, afresh, afresh. I thought it was kind of an echoing of what I was trying to
Excellent.
That's nice. That's what I thought of this morning when I woke up and looked out and all the trees have suddenly.
Yeah.
yes, I think it's greener than it's ever been.
That one was by Philip Larkin.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they go together well, Ben. It's nice that you thought both of them.
Larkin is sort of hard to get into, but he's certainly well recognized around the English-speaking world. Sorry, I should have done that.
Like something almost being said.
Yeah.
I wish I could do
I
that.
like this one. I don't have to find out what part of my class is in.
We've got quite a few absentees today. All right, mine looks long, it's on both sides, but it's in big bold print, so it's not as intimidating as it might
Let's take off the glasses.
seem. It's called AHA, or denouement. Many people report eureka or aha experiences. Unbidden, understanding spontaneously arises. Scales fall from eyes, and insight suddenly arrives. Inexplicably, things come together and are resolved. There's a burst of clarity, catalyzing awareness, a defining moment of comprehension. You get it. What is it? Teachers try to sow its seeds. Novelists describe it. Scientists strive for it. Lovers lust for it. Poets chase it. Musicians hear it. Chefs crave it. Artists try to craft it. Origamists fold it. Instances of ephemeral magic that are change catalysts. Peak experiences of discovery and transformation when life turns into an uncharted new direction. Everything boils down and it all comes together. Archimedes and Newton are mere apocryphal exemplars, but it really happened to Einstein, Fleming, and Descartes. Call it enlightenment, epiphany, kairosis, denouement, a moment of truth, a turning point, a decisive moment, catharsis, a pivot point, the Rubicon, a climactic resolution. It is a rhapsodic, sudden epiphany that opens eyes afresh. Such instances benchmark lives and scout fresh paths. These discerning discoveries come to some in dreams. Others encounter them while showering or hiking. An it moment once came to me at an hour of death. My sick mother's last words were, "This is it, son, this is it." Our blue eyes locked one last time and we squeezed hands. I sensed her crescendo to a Gotterdammerung denouement. I said calmly to her, "Yes, Mom, this is it." And then she died.
Wow.
This-
Awesome ending to this.
It's a true story. That's exactly the way my mother died. She'd been long sick, wasn't expected to die, but when out of the blue, she grabbed my hand and squeezed it, and we locked eyes, and we both had blue eyes. We were related. And she said, some sudden awareness that she was going to die. She said, "This is it." And I knew it too. I had an aha moment. I knew it was there, and there was no denying it. So I said, "Yes, I think it is." And then she was gone.
There is a tremendous lot that I see in this poem. I mean, and again, I'm thinking of synchronicity, but I have something related to this one as well today. But I see a connection between the death and all of these other hits. You know, there is a connection of that what I would see is the death of the ego. That we see these ha-ha moments when we get ourselves out of the way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when you get your own thinking and your own prejudice and your own whatever it, you know, their own leanings out of the way, you see it, and that is a kind of a death experience. You know that, and you know, scientists and artists. My wife's mother is an artist, and I'm going to have a little cartoon about writing, but the writing, it happens when we get ourselves out of the way.
I think you hit it precisely. That there's something magical about the requirement of indirection. If you're thinking too hard about the solution of a problem, the solution's not going to come. Go to a movie, take a walk, take a shower, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you say, hey, I know what I should do.
Right.
Or I have an awareness, I have a knowledge, I've solved the problem. Or, and then your life is probably never going to be the same again. So there is, in a sense, of the death of the old you and the discovery of a new path, a new you.
I mean, how many times, and I find it with my own writing, is I get to a point where I'm stuck, and I go for a walk, or I do something else, and that line comes into my head. It's like, I have to get out of the way.
Is it anything like mindlessness or mindfulness?
Well,
Whatever one's definition may be of that.
Possibly.
Well, people in Sven's profession and neuroscientists always try to study what's happening to the brain when a discovery, an insight occurs. And it's still a great mystery. They don't really quite know how it happens, but it does happen to some people. It didn't happen to Newton with an apple falling on his head, and Demosthenes didn't run naked through the streets saying Eureka, but they might have. But that's sort of the exemplary characterization of it. But to some people, it came in a flash. Einstein writes that that's how he discovered relativity.
Archimedes was in a tub, wasn't he? Now everybody's in a shower. A couple centuries of progress.
The king had asked him to whether he was being cheated, so he had a craftsman make a gold crown for him. And so the question was, is the craftsman cheating me? I gave him all this gold. Maybe he's just covered it. So he figured out that in the tub that he displaced as much as water as his own weight constituted. And so he allegedly, but that story's apocryphal.
And I remember this one little boy who was working how to tie a shoe exercise. And he worked on it, and all of a sudden he started giggling. He got it! And he was just laughing.
And there is almost sexual pleasure. I mean, there's something physical that's pleasurable when you get it. It is an epiphany, and you feel great. You say, I got it, I did it, Eureka.
Eureka.
Kairos, I had to look up Kairos. Probably lots of extras.
Is that an extra?
I think this is, oh no.
That's right.
Yeah, this is an extra too. I thought I didn't see one.
I thought about bringing it, but the fuchsia coat. My mother saved her pennies to buy a ruby-hued fuchsia coat, covered buttons and chestnut fur collar to wear when her husband came home. From the foxholes of war-torn France, at last he was New York bound, but stateside the fashion decreed that hemlines were dropping down. The fuchsia coat was out of style and packed in the back of the wardrobe. I liked to wear fuchsia in snow, a statement of bright, blissful days. Then the Vietnam War took me south, no use for high spirits or jaunty wool coats. Back in Ohio, the vintage coat rocked, with a long hippie skirt full of ruffles, perfect for chilly November days, but just then I found out I was pregnant. The hourglass garment with skinny waist would never again fit my figure. My daughter Kate wore the fuchsia coat twice in her teenage artsy mode. At Bard, she chose a slim black attire as she changed her major from English. No frivolous style for grad school, as one of few women in physics. Fuchsia and fur are not serious, so the coat was left home with her jewelry. She wore it once more for Christmas at home, then it vanished into the closet. Last week, I presented the fuchsia coat to my granddaughter, 4-year-old Emma. Gorgeous, chimed Emma, fashionista child. Will you save it for me, please, please, Grandma?
Oh, that's
Great.
Oh, yeah.
This one is going to be able to wear it forever. She's this little elfin thing, and she might have to take it in.
I think that could be a whole subgenre of poetry. Old clothes that you found that were your mom's, or and whether.
I take it Kitty is your mother?
Kitty's my mother.
Oh.
Yes.
Love it.
Thank you.
I brought, I was thinking about my writing and about how difficult it is, and somebody gave me this cartoon out of the New Yorker, and it's a picture of a person being stretched, being tortured on a stretching board with a hooded person next to him, and the hooded person is saying, "Don't talk to me about suffering. In my spare time, I'm a writer."
That's great.
And, you know,
From the New York.
Yeah.
You don't really need to see it, but.
from the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
from what you were saying about the writing that you bring, it is work, and I never, it's not only work to get the right words and to get the right things to say, but it's work because it brings out, for me, brings out stuff from the closet, you might say, stuff from in those spaces that just comes out. So anyway, I thought of that, the article.
If you want to take a picture of it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You want to do that?
As some of you may know, for a long time I've been practicing Zen Buddhism, and I wanted to capture the essence of simplicity in the meditation hall, and I tried to do it in a poem, which was work. Awake, quiet, sleeping. Was I? Don't know. I wasn't awake. Bells, wake-up call. Not alarmed as I usually am. Stirring, not awake. Gathering, meditation hall. Taking my place on a cushion, looking toward awakening. Settling, silence. Thoughts pass as does time, and dawn awakens around me. Engaging, birds, chirping in silence, nature's mantras. They are awake, am I? Sudden, stillness, yes, now. Nothing, yet everything, just this. Ego's lost, I am, awake. Then gone, not here, where? Thoughts of being awake means I am not. Darkness envelops,
Wow.
sleep returns. Does light come to one who is not awake? Maybe later, perhaps tomorrow, seldom now, is it? Awakening still awaits.
Oh,
Well, that feels like Zen.
does.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's calming in the sense that listening to it is just,
I am not.
it has a cadence.
So the bell is when they strike the one.
There's a bell at
Uh-huh.
the morning call to the meditation hall.
It's a simple structure.
Thomas Lynch said, "We all grew up with raised speech, like, God is great, God is good." The 30 or so attendees spontaneously chimed in, "Let us thank him for our food." George Pilgier said, "I never start with a big idea, but often with a note to myself, like, I saw a dead bird at the door to CVS, which is ended up as a poem. Thomas Lynch said the two favorite U.S. poems both rhyme, Stopping by the Woods and The Road Not Taken. George Bilgier, I think it was George, said, form makes you tell the truth. It's your buddy. It makes writing easier. Thomas Lynch said, Yeats stole. Everybody steals. Go ahead, put your own spin on a favorite verse. George or Thomas posited two types of poems. One, those you get, those you don't get. Thomas Lynch quoted Hemingway, for sale, baby shoes, never used. And Margaret Atwood, yearn for him, got him, shit. George Bilgier said, edit, and when you come to the natural end, stop. So Marion, so you were there, and so maybe...
The same day?
Yeah, the same day.
And you were in that big space.
It's interesting that Tom Lynch says that two of his favorite poems have both meter and rhyme, because his poems don't. I understand. I didn't get to attend, but I understand he asked the question of the audience, how many of you write with rhymed couplets? And only a couple of hands went up in the whole room. The most people write free verse, and they don't rhyme it or meter it.
I've read Bilgier, and he said that rhyme is humorous, it's silly, it's juvenile, it's whatever. It's to be disparaged, whatever.
Maybe sometimes.
I've heard him write that,
That's what he said then, and then
he did say something like that?
No, he said that it helps, that form helps.
But yeah, form doesn't necessarily mean rhyme, but anyway, it's related, so I wondered about that.
Yeah.
I don't like his poetry. I like Lynch a lot,
Lynch-
but
well, Lynch is-
if he gets to be poet laureate, I'm not going to go to the inauguration.
I don't think so. But he said that
You knew Lynch from before, didn't
yeah,
you? Where
yes.
did you know him from?
From Chautauqua. I had bought his book, and he signed it, and then when Charles died, I loaned it to Moquin, and I just noticed this morning that it's called Hughes Funeral Home, and the Moquin is out. So I don't know there's a story there. But I said, oh, you probably have heard of Thomas Lynch. He said, no, I never heard. So I loaned him the book, and he never gave it back. And so I told this to Thomas Lynch, and he said, oh, go get another one. I think he meant, complimentary, but anyway, I bought another one. And so he signed it again. So that was kind of interesting. I have it in my car. But he said that the two favorite poems, it was a poll of some type that they, I don't know how they did it, but it was some kind of a national poll where they asked people, and these were the two that came, the Robert Frost, the two that came up.
Yeah, that's the nation's favorite
Yes,
poem.
the nation's favorite.
Yeah, not necessarily his. I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
And that they both rhyme, or they both have
Oh yeah,
form.
very strict, yeah.
Oh, I see, that wasn't
Yeah,
his
yeah,
preference,
yeah.
it was his recording.
Yeah, but the fact that he brought it up, I think,
Yeah, I see.
means he was trying to make a point there.
I love the very powerful line by Hemingway.
Yes.
There's for sale baby shoes.
Yeah,
never
that
used.
there's a whole,
I mean,
think
yes.
of all the things that could
It
be
just-
behind that story.
Exactly, and exactly what's all behind that.
Yeah.
All these famous statements that get lost in the dust as the
But I've
years go
never
by.
heard that
Yeah.
before. 'Cause
I haven't heard that in a
I
long
haven't
time.
either.
Okay, so.
But they don't hear what Margaret Atwood
They're out
said
there.
either.
Yeah, they're there to be
All the ones that are
encountered.
spoken, they're still out there.
I am currently reading a book written during World War II by Alan Paton called Pride of the Beloved Country. Okay?
Yeah.
Terrific book, and it's very relevant to Baltimore. You know, whatever is going on right now, it's very relevant to what's going on. His other book, Too Late the Fell Rope, that's also a tremendous book.
I think the best thing that came out of that several hours was the second stanza where George said he keeps a notebook and he writes down things, and he doesn't start with, life and death, but he starts with something that he noticed, and then it comes as
Right.
it comes along, or it rattles around, and it finally comes out as a poem. But he said, I went into CVS, or towards CVS one day, and there was a dead bird at the, I don't remember what, but he said what kind it was.
It was
Sparrow? No, anyway.
Well, all those in the Billy Collins School must do that, because he cranks out a poem a day based upon what he sees. I don't know if it does a poem a day, but he does a whole bunch of them. And
So that made
starts
me
with
feel
something
better.
simple.
Because I never know where things are going. But the notebook thing.
Very clever of you to make a point.
Yes.
Point
No,
out
that's
of
great.
a report.
So that's my report, and
Very clever.
Very nice.
Tricia was
That works.
definitely there as well.
Sure, I don't know if you all get the notes from Alan that he sends out, but 3 of the young people who were part of his Wellspring of Imagination have won national prizes within the last week.
Oh,
Yeah.
the young woman that spoke at the Emeriti, or
Yeah.
was one of? Oh.
No, not him.
Oh.
What
No.
did you think of the 3 prize-winning poems?
Oh, I thought it was a bad choice.
Who were the judges?
Did you get them?
Yeah, did you get a copy
Did you
of
get them? Did you?
I didn't get a copy
thought
of them.
it's
They
Very,
didn't-
That's
very
pretty-
common, popular,
Yeah, that was very mundane, nothing extraordinary.
I mean, I thought the 3rd place person was the best.
Uh-huh.
And she was,
The most straightforward story, like.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting. Okay,
Nobody has.
the bird feeder. The bird feeder hangs from the walnut's bare limb and dangles its wares for various birds. Wrens, sparrows, and cardinals, finches, chickadees, and more fly in to feast through the day. The bird feeder watches from her station inside and wonders often at how they take turns. These colorful neighbors she welcomes so eagerly and treasures their visits and songs.
Oh, nice.
I was looking out the window and I was thinking, oh, I'm a bird feeder and that's a bird feeder.
Oh, that's good. So the top line of each, has a different.
Kathy, when you were reading this, as you started, I said, I wonder if she's going to use this as metaphor
Oh,
for something,
huh.
which is finding the dead bird by the CVS door. You ought to do that. You have these wonderful natural visions, which we all appreciate a great deal. But sometimes they might suggest a metaphor to you, and you could expand. So.
Yeah, I agree. I like the concept of the bird feeder, and I think it could be expanded and taken to other levels. And I'm thinking of, for example, how the birds feed us. Here you are watching
Yeah.
with enjoyment with the treasure, and they become the feeder. And so this can be taken to another level. It's really nice.
And even ideas that can attract ideas. An idea can be a feeder of ideas, and so on.
And they take turns. I don't have a bird feeder, or I used to.
Oh, I do.
But so they actually the birds take turns.
Well, sometimes there's 2 on it. It's
Yeah.
one of those tunnel ones with different.
Oh.
There's a pecking order, though.
Yes, there definitely is.
Definitely,
Literally.
and the red-winged blackbirds are, if they come in, pretty much everybody goes.
And the red-bellied
And the
woodpeckers,
red, well,
they're bossy guys.
Well,
they're
they
the
go
ones
to
that are there
the
first,
sewer.
and they
They
don't
go to
move
my
until
sewer.
they're
They
ready.
go to the feeder.
They will make way for a pileated That's
Yeah,
right.
they will.
I have seen a pileated woodpecker.
We have them all the time, of course, at our feeders.
Feeder.
Yeah, we
Couple
have
families.
one, but he doesn't come very often, or at least not when we see him.
I was with my son last week in Connecticut, and at work, he does home renovation, so I was working with him. He calls me and he's got a big job he needs some help with. Anyway, we were out working at his house on the beach in Connecticut, and it was a nice spring day, and people were coming to, I guess, open up their houses on the beach for the summer. And all of a sudden, we heard this crow just squawking and squawking for like, it must have gone on for half an hour, but apparently people were coming back and the crow had taken up residence either in the tree near this house for the winter, and he was, or she was very unhappy that these people were coming back.
Territorial.
Very territorial.
Good thing the first lady wasn't there. She probably would have broke her other foot, but that crow.
Oh,
Crows are so intelligent. They just amaze me all the time.
But anyway, there's a lot here, thank you.
Larry, you're last but not least.
Thank you.
This is the day for big type.
Yes,
No glasses needed.
thank you for all who, we didn't have time to read.
It's big type for, it's a attempt to capsulize this guy, Grant Sappington. He's been out of the country for the last 3 years on a naval tour, and then for 17 years has been his career to this point. And he and his mother came to our house as a kind of stopover place for a few days, as they were basically convening with more of their family members in Hocking County. And the mother lives in Akron, and the son lives on the East Coast. We were learning about life being in the Navy. And so being away 3 years from your spouse, what does that do? And so some of this is attempting to respond to that issue, even though I wasn't even aware of it until nearly he was about ready to leave. Mary, my wife, shared that with me. So this comes from Grant's mother, Charlotte, and Mary, and myself. So we tried to compile this into something succinct. And this is my most common usage of writing as an encouragement to some person. So, welcome home, Grant Sappington, because thank you for your 17 years in naval service to our world and USA. We missed you these past 3 years while you were away, patrolling to safeguard shipping in the Persian Gulf. Your grandmother, mother, aunts, sisters, cousins, and friends have all missed you many a day. You're a family. You're important to us. Your travel stories we love to hear about the people, your colleagues, work, and the places you've been during those years. Your answers to our questions are thoughtful, fraud-free, frank, and knowledgeable. We've heard and believe you've been very able, capable, and responsible. You did what requested and commanded regarding your on-ship chores and duties. Amidst all this, you continue to make the Lord an important part of what and who you look toward. No matter what situations cross your path, stay focused on the Lord and pray. Read His Word, trust in Him, and avoid those worldly temptations to sin. He has a plan for you on what you feel, think, and do. May God bless and reconnect you and Strawberry, that's the water, with His love, which will in turn bless all of us who come in contact with you too. We thank you again for your 17 years of service to our world and the USA.
nice to write a poem for somebody as a gift.
I wonder if
So many
much of the world gives thanks to the U.S. Naval Service. Just a thought.
Persian Gulf, Iran's on one side. But he wasn't, he was on the ship, most of these little bitty ships. They're
Right.
just gun patrols. They don't have much gun power. There's only about 3 or 4 guys on this little boat. But they're running around keeping track of and making sure that
Yeah.
the commercial ships are able to get through. And if they have complications, they call in bigger guns than their own, but they were actually never had to use them. It's just, they're there, and I guess Iran has been recognizing their presence, and it's remained fairly safe.
Now, is her name Strawberry, or is that a nickname?
No, her nickname is Berry. Her name is Strawberry.
Interesting.
So,
Better than raspberry.
Those good for breakfast.
I have no idea the origin of that name, but
Huh.
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
On the, in the Gulf, on the Arabian Peninsula side, they refer to it as the Arabian Gulf.
Yes.
It is not the Persian Gulf. The Persian Gulf is referred to by the Persians in Iran.
I was reading off the map, that's the.
I was in was working out at the Y in YMCA in Lancaster, and there was a gentleman there in the locker room who was in the armed forces, I suppose, and he was talking to somebody, and they kept saying, "Well, thank you for your service, thank you for your service, thank you for," and of course we hear that frequently, "Thank you for the service." And I don't get into any discussions at the locker room at the YMCA, but I wanted to say to him, "I'm a teacher. Why don't you thank me for my service?" And you know, I would just like it if somebody else, other than the armed forces, could be thanked for their service. You know?
I think it gets overdone too.
I think it does.
We've got Memorial Day coming up, and so once again, we got to parade all the flags out and all the yada-da or whatever, and the U.S. military service is much appreciated by some Americans, and some Americans don't very much care for what the U.S. military services have been doing for quite a few years.
It isn't.
Maybe there's not too many of us, but there are quite a number of Americans who are not sympathetic. In the third line, I think safeguard is one word, isn't it? We don't have Patricia Black here to referee.
My computer didn't like safeguard is one word, so that's.
Is
why
that
I
a
made it.
fact?
That's right, it didn't like it, so I separated it. I think of it as one
It
word.
is one word, yeah.
It's, as a verb, it's one word.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I'll fight with the computer.
You mean it turned red?
I can
the red
overrule.
thing. Yeah, I would just go with it.
I thought about hyphenating it.
You can ignore it.
Yeah, just
Ignore
go
their
with it.
suggestion. I
Right.
do that a lot.
Right. Oh, that's all the time. Every line is practically, they don't like it when you start a line without capitalizing it. You know, that's a part of your
Yeah, you have
sentence.
to tell that you really mean it.
Have you sent this to them?
I gave it to him, but this is the revision. So as I get more input, I will
Did he
send
like
him
that?
a revision. But and I sent one to his mother too, because she had left before he, and but I'd taken her kind of thoughts and Mary's, and this is what came out.
It's true about the Persian Gulf, Arabian Gulf, and I've seen international students run to maps to see, you know, how is it named on this map, and depending on where they're from.
I actually, I needed to go to the map to figure out where all of you been, and this is just his most recent tour.
I was in the UAE I do some international work, and I was in the UAE, and we were doing some review of education in the schools, and their books, if you look at a map of, quote, the Middle East, which is itself a bit of an anachronistic
Right.
term, but
Wisdom.
there is no Israel in the books, the textbooks of in the UAE. There is Palestine, but that's it. It's just literally not recognized. It's fascinating how people see the Navy and how people see the world. We all see the world a little bit differently.
How you label Kashmir, you can get into pretty robust arguments about, is it occupied, or, where, is it shaded, is it part of India, or... Well, it's Cinco de Mayo. Does that mean we're going to
Mayo,
place for
right.
lunch?
We should all send our poems to Joe,
Joe.
who's in Austin.
Yeah,
I hope
must be-
celebrating.
Has anybody heard from him?
I'm still working on it. I copied some stuff from a journal that Anne kindly loaned me, the Library of Congress, had a special issue on poetry, and that's where the poet laureate is. And so I'm probably going to read him a Billy Collins a poem about what is poetry. Do you know that? Where you hold it up and let it buzz in your ear, you drop a mouse in it and let it run around, and you put it in you enter a poem like a dark room and you feel around for the light switch.
I love that.
Oh.
That's a wonderful poem.
Do you know the name of it?
Oh.
It was one of his early, it's quoted in there,
Oh,
but
it is?
in fact,
Okay.
it was one of his early books. So I'll probably do some
Oh.
funny stuff, some
Yeah, here it
I've
is.
been that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a wonderful little poem. If you don't know it, let me read it to you. It's called Introduction to Poetry. I asked them, he's a professor of English, so he's talking about what he tells his class. I asked them to take a poem and hold it up to the light like a color slide, or press an ear against its hive. I say, drop a mouse into a poem and watch him probe his way out. Or walk inside the poem's room and feel the walls for a light switch. I want them to water ski across the surface of a poem, waving the author's name on the shore. But all they want to do is tie the poem to a chair with rope and torture a confession out of it. They begin beating it with a hose to find out what it really means.
It's great. An interesting,
Yeah.
Billy Collins, Introduction to
So that would be
Poetry, huh?
type 1, a poem that you get,
Yeah.
as opposed to...
Well, anyway, I welcome suggestions. I've got 2 weeks to become smart. That's all
Well,
I
there's-
want. Smart.
There's a wonderful book, and I'm not sure I still have it. It's called Rose, Rose, Where's Your Red? And it's a book that I used many
Yes.
years ago when I was teaching.
That's the...
What's it called?
Rose, Rose, Where Is Your Red?
Where is your red? Oh, okay,
Yeah,
I'll look it
and
up.
I'll see if I still have it. I
Copyright
think I gave
1988,
it
so that's an
to
old
another
one.
teacher when I left, but
I had an idea of what I was going to do,
Probably
and then I talked to both the teacher and to my grandchild more, and I realized I need to throw away this. It was much too simplistic in elementary. I needed.
You're going to talk about Hallmark cards, that kind of dribble and whatever? Huh? Poetry
really-
versus
I wanna-
dribble?
I want to get them to do something. I want them to
Yeah.
create something and feel a participation. And I want to try to convey to them the sense that poetry can be fun. It can be funny. It can be tragic. It can be horrible. It can be all of it can rhyme. It doesn't have to rhyme. It can be long. It can be short. It can be formal.
But as Billy Collins and many others say, poetry is about one person, the poet. It's all about the poet. It's all about the poet.
You could do
And
the...
any number of critics will say that. And so if they don't put themselves into it in some way,
Then it's failed.
then it's not a sincere
Yeah.
poem.
You could do the one about the lanyard, because maybe they've been to camp And I don't know if you still make those, the
Yeah,
Billy
I
Collins
bet
one.
they do.
the-
What,
The braided,
what poem are you talking
the
about?
lanyard where the
I
Billy
know what
Collins.
I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. I made one or two, I guess
Yeah.
every Boy Scout did.
Oh,
but-
yeah.
It's-
that's
Yeah, he did a
great.
poem on that, yes, I recall
Oh,
that.
I love when he,
It's
yeah, the way he
wonderful.
reads that, it's just, there's
It was in
such
the
tongue
book
in
that I
cheek.
got, I should talk about it one time, but it's about how, something to his mom, and he said, "Thank you for giving birth to me, giving me thousands of meals, healing all my cuts and scrapes, and here's a lanyard for you, Mom."
Yeah.
And I thought it was equal, you know?
Yeah.
As a kid, you think it's,
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me right back to
Yeah.
camp where we made lanyards and to give to mom or whatever, yeah.
Well, what would you do?
maybe get an
45
object,
minutes.
an
That's
object,
two
and then have
classes to
the.
group. I can repeat myself because they're two different classes, so if I need a 45-minute act.
That's a lot of time.
Yes.
Woo! Maybe bring
Oh,
like
so much.
a live kitten and a, you know, and
A live kitten.
something else and say, well, you know, can you make a poem out of this and see what, because yeah, it should be active.
Yeah, I have to assume their attention spans are going to be relatively brief. And,
I would I like the idea of the Ogden and Nash stuff as well, you know,
yeah,
something
some of that's very clever. and-
very clever. And maybe have them read it, have somebody in,
Yeah,
Have a
well,
seat,
that's
so they
a
put their own-
good idea.
they put
Will
their own-
you, Johnny, read this poem
yeah,
for me?
just put a
You
little
know,
twist on it, you know.
that's
Or
a
each
good
And then
idea.
have
Each-
another person read the same poem and say, read this differently, you know, read it with a new voice.
Or have each one read a line,
All right.
so everybody has.
Yeah, you can, I used to do that a lot.
Well,
Each person adds a word.
Right, that's the other thing to do. You could start a line, have one person write a line or say something, and then the next kid has to do the next line. And then each
Oh, that's a
add,
very
Yeah.
good
so
idea.
you do a
So
group
they're
poem.
actively
Yeah.
involved.
Well,
Yeah,
I
that
want
might
to
be
do
hard
that.
for
I want
nine-year-olds.
to give the message that poetry aloud is different than poetry on a page.
Absolutely.
One of the topics could be repetition, and you could have several kids say the lines, "and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep." But no matter who it is, when they read those two lines, they read the two lines differently.
Yeah, yeah.
And to
That's a
watch
good-
that happen, to see it happen in themselves might be interesting and promote some kind of discussion and the role of repetition in poems, right? Like your line, your opening line and so on.
That's one of the two favorite poems. Maybe you could read both of those top two Robert Frost poems,
Yeah.
because they do rhyme and the.
I
song's
love
good.
E.E. Cummings, and I think there's a lot of, someone lived in a pretty hot town with so many floating bells down.
Yeah, that's wonderful too.
So, I
Which
mean,
one, which one?
Yeah, the sound.
E. Cummings.
someone, E.E. Cummings.
Yeah, but what was the,
Someone lived in a pretty hot town.
With up so many floating bells down. That's the beginning of it.
I just got the, and I'm just forgetting her first name. Woodson, it's Brown Girl Dreaming. And it's beautiful.
Woodson?
It's just,
Is the name of the poem?
it's a book, and it's all poetry. And she has haiku that she wrote when she was a child.
Oh, dear.
And it just has so much warmth in it. It's awesome.
I'll check that out too.
Yeah.
I
Diane
don't
Reed
want to overwhelm
interviewed
you.
her.
Yes, Diane Reed interviewed it, and I heard it, and I just,
Jacqueline Woodson.
Jacqueline.
I
Jacqueline.
think she's related to Ava Adams, I think, from what, something about the.
She's read, she's has a
Yeah,
lot of
she
National
wasn't
Book
Amory.
Awards or
That Browning poem.
Newberries
that
and.
Patricia had us
she
read a couple times ago, you know, to show,
Yeah.
what's that Browning poem from I to Ghent or whatever it was?
Yeah, yeah.
Ghent, eh?
Yeah, I remember that one. That might,
Real
that
moving,
might work.
yeah.
Well, I will be here on the 19th is our next meeting, but I'm going to not go to lunch with you because I have to be at the.
And just something to, that gives them a way to start.
That's a good idea too.
And if they're really
I do want
quirky
them, I want
things,
them on
it's
their
kind
feet
of
and
fun.
writing and hands in the air and laughing, and I want them to
Is it a
want it to be fun.
multicultural, I suppose anything in Athens, the classroom would be multicultural? I mean,
Well, I was
international kids?
certainly
and-
gonna make the point that diversity is welcome, so I can't get away with without quoting Emily Dickinson and probably Gwendolyn Brooks and probably Langston Hughes. So I'm gonna have a rainbow coalition of
I mean,
poems.
the kids would be bringing in a lot.
I wrote a poem couple years ago, I guess I presented it here, called Diversity.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
And it talks about the different kinds of trees and, accepting diversity.
Diversity.
Diversity, I don't know.
Oh, that's cool. If you can
I'll
start
look it up and
diversity,
send it to you if I think
that
it,
would
yeah.
work. They would like that, I think. I don't know how heavy I should get. Sometimes these kids are much more advanced than you thought. I was thinking reminded of a very serious topic. Billie Holiday sang, it was quoted in the magazine, that's why I quoted it at the end.
Yes.
About the poem.
Strange
She
Fruit.
sang a poem as a blues song called
Yeah.
Strange Fruit, which is a horrible
Oh,
poem
here it is.
about
Yeah, yeah.
hanging,
Yeah.
black men hanging
Right.
in the trees. So,
Yeah, I don't think
remember
that's
a little
appropriate.
too-
I
Little heavy.
that. Ugh.
No,
They-
I don't think it
That's,
yeah,
It would take a lot of preparation.
I'm not gonna throw that at
Onto
them, but it is, I want them to have the sense that poetry is considered dangerous by some governments. You can die from writing poetry, as Lorca found out, and as Plato wanted to chase off the poets or kill them out of his ideal republic because they were emotionally unstable, dangerous people.
But have they heard Rage Against the Dying of the Light?
I bet they haven't heard that one. Maybe they haven't, I don't know.
Probably some of them, because it's such a popular poem, but,
Well, that would be I
That's an
think
upper.
that one has a wonderful resonance to it.
yeah.
I also have a CD with, I could have Dylan Thomas read that, and let them hear it, because he was such a dramatic reader. But
Johnny Quack and Flossie Snail put their baby in a milking pail. One would put it in and one would take it out and one would fill it up with ale and stout. He's full.
Then you'd have to talk about what that is.
Yes, right.
I mean, they would know, but maybe not those terms. That's great.
You mentioned, Marianne, the poetry slams.
Yes.
I have heard, I think it was on NPR, some kids, teenagers doing poetry slams, and they're very impressive. I
Yes,
mean,
they are.
You know, you can hear a lot of stuff coming out that I just think is incredible. So I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes kids will say things in a poem that you sort of will take you aback. You know, it has something to do with something that happened in their family or something that they saw, and you know, it can be a shocker. So you have to be ready for that. It's not all fun, like you said.
and what grade is this?
pardon me?
What grade are they? 9 years
He's
old?
9 years old, so
Nine,
what would that
third-
be?
oh, third grade.
Fourth,
Yeah.
third grade.
Limit.
Well, I remember talking with my 11-year-old when she was 8 or 9, and somehow the Holocaust topic came up, and I thought that was a topic I didn't want to go to with a young girl. And she said, well, Dad, we just read the Diary of Anne Frank. We know about 6 million Jews being gassed with Zyklon D. And she knew more about it than most people did. And said, we know all about that.
And they just did the play here, so they may have gone to the play. Athens High School did that as their entry.
Just another one, I don't know, but like a quick topic, it could be green or it could be anything, and then you throw something and somebody catches it and they say something to that, and then you put it all together and it kind of comes out as a poem. You know what everybody says. You know, it's just, you start with something and it's just real fast and you just go.
I could have a rhyming game, you know, what rhymes with.
You could,
tap-
or just
tap-
a topic and you just throw it from one person to another. It can be